Bossbabes of South Africa is a sisterhood today. It's a renowned South African brand and really focusing on the core of what women empowerment means and a sisterhood. What does a sisterhood mean in terms of us uplifting and empowering each other as women of South Africa? And I always believe that if you don't find yourself at the right tables or there isn't a seat for you at the table, that it is important for you to be able to create your own table and your own spaces where you're able to have inspirational conversations to make sure that whatever you're putting out, you're very intentional about the messaging that you're putting out. You look at the foundation of what it feels to be like a woman who is empowered in whichever space you may find yourself in. It starts with you feeling valued, heard, and seen. And when you're in a space where your value system is in conflict with the environment that you find yourself in, you'll constantly be in conflict, right? To show up as yourself, to know who you are, and to start setting those boundaries as soon as possible. Don't wait. Don't wait because you're scared.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanya Boyson and welcome to the Come Up series. I'm here with my lovely co-host Amanda Jacobs, and our guest today is Kovini Moodley, and she is an activist for women. She is the founder of Bossbabes South Africa, and she is a chartered accountant. And today we'll be talking about how women empowerment is seen in 2023. So I just want to give a brief of where women empowerment started and where it is today.
Okay.
So throughout the years, women had fewer legal rights and opportunities than men. So in the 20th century, women in most nations won the right to vote and increase their educational and job opportunities. Women empowerment today involves creating an environment where women can participate in society and economy on an equal footing as men, where their voices are heard and their rights are protected. Women empowerment can take many forms, including education, economic and political and social responsibilities.
That's right, Tanya. Yes, that's right. Welcome again, Kovini, and thank you for gracing us with your presence on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here and have this inspirational conversation with you. I've been waiting all day. So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so Kovini, I want to start with when and how did Bossbabes of South Africa start?
So Bossbabes of South Africa started for me just as we were about to go into COVID, which was in 2020. I had been through a rather traumatic experience prior to that as a woman of color, not a great episode in my life. And I decided that there was a need for us to be seen, heard, and valued more. And I always believe that if you don't find yourself at the right tables or there isn't a seat for you at the table, that it is important for you to be able to create your own table and your own spaces where you're able to have inspirational conversations. Bossbabes of South Africa is a sisterhood today. It's a renowned South African brand and really focusing on the core of what women empowerment means and a sisterhood. What does a sisterhood mean in terms of us uplifting and empowering each other as women of South Africa?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's exactly what we need right now. So how do you empower yourself and other women through your platform?
It started with, inspirational content, and it started as a hobby. I started with 5 followers at that time, 2 of which were my twin sisters, who thought that this was a little passion project and, let's support her, and my one cousin. And I would just post inspirational quotes, and then I started to go live. And I think when I started to go live and speak about my experiences, my life challenges, my lived experiences, is sort of when I had my own aha moment, thinking that, whoa, if I could do this, lots of other women also have stories and they should also use the platform to share their stories. And that's sort of when the platform started to grow and people took notice. And then we had media reaching out to us, various television stations reaching out to try and publish and talk about what we were doing. And I think it really just started with me having a vision, a mission, and then bringing my full authentic self to this platform. I didn't want to create something that was all sugar-coated and, pink and fluffy, even though there is a lot of pink. It definitely isn't fluffy. So I think that was very important for me to add some substance to the conversation around what women empowerment means, and also how to break the barriers and the stereotypes that women of color face in today's world.
I love that because during COVID, there were a lot of businesses that grew out of COVID, and some of them has failed already because we're back outside now again. But it's actually so amazing and inspirational to see that your platform keeps on growing, and it actually launched you into like a new purpose for your life, basically. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the power of social media. It's
Yeah.
about what you're choosing to use it for, and to make sure that whatever you're putting out, you're very intentional about the messaging that you're putting out. If you want to grow and you want to grow your personal brand, which is what I've used it for, it's just important to know what is your strategy and why are you there? What is your why in terms of the brand that you're trying to create?
Sure. I love it. I love it. So, from the 20th century, do you think there has been a vast change of gender equality and empowerment in the workplace?
Look, I think definitely we've made incredible strides. We can't get away from that. There was a time where women were not allowed to work, we were not allowed to compete in the athletics and all those good things. Women are not allowed in sport. So I think definitely in terms of, career paths, I think that doors have opened for women ever since, back in the day, or the olden ages, if I could put it that way. But I think currently in South Africa, there's definitely room for improvement. And for me, the room for improvement starts with acknowledging that, things are not as amazing as we may perceive them to be, or that we publish them to be, or that we market certain brands to be about. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done behind the scenes, because for me, women empowerment, when you look at the foundation of what it feels to be like a woman who is empowered in whichever space you may find yourself in, it starts with you feeling valued, heard, and seen. And I think the narrative for many women of color is not that. And until you fix that foundational element, it's very hard to say, I'm an empowered woman. I think it's
Yeah.
very hard to believe that and to feel it if the foundational elements are not in place to support that particular narrative.
Do you think that foundational elements should start you as a woman of color have to go back and be self-aware and check, okay, I'm lacking these foundational elements. This is where I have to course correct in order to be more assertive, to show up better in the workplace, and just be more assertive and also be forceful with your opinions and your ideas and thoughts in the workplace. Like
I think
what
that's definitely one part. Owning your power, being confident is one part of it, definitely a big part of it. To show up as your best self is really important to any success in whichever industry you find yourself in. But equally important is to make sure that environments that you find yourself in are transformative. Do understand the basics around transformation, and that the systems that are in place are there to support women of color and to support the narrative and break down the barriers for women of color to succeed.
I like that you say environments, to make sure that environments provide that flexibility where you are able to break barriers and that they are open-minded in that sense, And what would you then say for ladies who actually feel like they don't have the environment, do not allow them to be flexible in that sense? Do you think you have to then be intentional in that sense to choose the environment and choose for how long you're going to stay and endure in that type of environment?
Mm. You see, the environments that we find ourselves in are often aligned to our own personal value systems. And when you're in a space where your value system is in conflict with the environment that you find yourself in, you'll constantly be in conflict, right? You'll constantly be misaligned, miserable, angry. So I think it's important in your research, especially when you're, job hunting, looking for that dream job as such, to make sure that you're doing all the sort of background work, speak to people, find out about the environment, find out about the culture. I feel like sometimes when you attend interviews, you can't get a full picture of where it is you're going to. And I think it's important for you to also, when you enter a workplace or a particular industry, is to set the barriers and the expectations around what you're hoping to get from that particular environment. We're all at different environments for different purposes, right? And I think it's important to set yourself straight in terms of what are you hoping to achieve and communicate that. So set that expectation with the parties that you're joining so that it becomes a collaboration. I feel like these days, from the stories that we hear, especially as Bossbabes of South Africa, I get hundreds of DMs about people that are finding themselves in environments that are not very healthy for their mental health, for their soul, just for their overall well-beings. And I think it's just so important, with that knowledge, to be able to show up as yourself, to know who you are, and to start setting those boundaries as soon as possible. Don't wait. Don't wait because you're scared. If things are not going well, don't be afraid to speak up. I think that's another thing that women of color have a lot of fear about speaking up, because you're going to be stereotyped. You're going to be called the problem child. There's some name that's going to be out there for you that isn't present. And I think that's what we also at Boss Babes of South Africa are trying to break, the fact that all voices are equal. All voices need to be valued. And we need to move away from the stereotype of tone policing women of color. So it becomes about how angry you are. It becomes about the tone that you're using, when it should actually be about the matter at hand and how is a particular organization choosing to deal with that matter at hand.
I love that.
It also comes into place how we can place initiatives that empower women, and how the company can understand of working with women with women empowerment initiatives. So why is that important? Especially now in 2023. I know we have newer and modern companies, but you have those old, stagnated, older companies that are used to their ways of working in a certain environment for 30 or to 40 years, or maybe even 60 years and more.
I think the world is changing. So much of the world has changed in the last 3 years with everything becoming digital. So it is important to keep abreast with, what needs to happen from a South African perspective. I think our environment, our history, our struggle is so unique. And I think there needs to be more time spent with understanding that and then leveraging, tools and assets. And tools and assets for me are tools and assets that are offered in the DEI space, so DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion space. Those are the kind of tools and those are the kind of consultants that organizations need to be bringing in, because they're objective. They're going to come into your space. They're going to look at the way things are done. They're going to do interviews. And what you're going to get out of that is going to be so valuable in terms of determining your next steps. And I think if we ever talk about women empowerment or women rising in the workplace, it has to start with that rather than the concept of what we deem women empowerment to be, women supporting each other. Yet in the meantime and behind the scenes, there's almost that inequity to start with. So how are you even going to pick up another woman or support another woman when there's already, this huge gap that you're starting with?
Sure. Do you also do work with organizations and companies with your Bossbabes of South Africa platform?
Yeah, we're definitely starting to venture into that space. Personally, I do a lot of motivational, talks if I'm called to give a specific talk. I focus a lot on purpose, finding your purpose, owning your space, taking up space, which I think we forget to do. And I think our focus for 2023 has been about turning pain into power, and that very much focusing on how do we transform the spaces that we find ourselves in? How do we create safe spaces, psychologically safe spaces for women of color to thrive within?
Wonderful. So what would you say? How should companies implement gender equality programs, especially in companies where patriarchy is life?
Patriarchy is just everywhere, and I think the Barbie movie just highlighted that so beautifully. It was an advocacy for a lot of things that we as women are afraid to talk about because we've been told it's taboo, don't speak about that. I just felt that movie hit all the challenges that women across the world face. It was just so subtly, woven into the script and into the whole way that it was carried out. So I think it's a very real concept, and we can't get away from it, right? We can't get away from the stats, especially in South Africa, that show us that there's a huge percentage of males that are in these senior positions in most of our JSE listed companies. That's a stat. But I think what can happen is that a big part of women empowerment is having males who want to support other women. That is a huge part of it as well, because if you're sitting at a table with only males and you want to make a decision, you should be considering, the voice of having a woman on that seat that could add value, a different perspective, a different thought process to that decision that you're going to be making. And I'm all for bringing on new voices and getting those different perspectives because I personally love change. I love to see transformative change. I love to see us doing things differently, more efficiently, more smarter. And I believe that women bring that almost magic to any table. So if you're a male and you're sitting at an all-male table and you're having these conversations and you look around you and there isn't a single woman of color, I believe that it's your duty to be able to stand up and speak about how do we make that happen.
Yeah, very true. I like that last statement that you said, it's our duty to make that happen and speak up. And I agree with it. Men need to support us as well with our pointers and just voicing our opinions and adding value to a business, because it can only grow from there. And do you think that the lack of empowerment is due to equality or equity?
Wow. I think that the lack of empowerment stems from our deep history first to South Africa, right? The fact that we have gone through a very tumultuous past in terms of having the apartheid era, for many, many years in this country, and stopping every kind of progress in its steps. But I think it's so important for us to focus on making sure that DEI is implemented well within companies, because that will take care of any misalignments that may still be in place. And I think what's shocking is that a lot of people still don't understand what diversity really means, right? What inclusion means, what belonging means. I could be sitting at a table, I could be at a senior position, but when I open my mouth to speak, my voice doesn't matter. So I'm sitting there, but I'm not really being able to add that value that I need to. And I think for me, the biggest thing is people of all races need to sit down and really, unpack what does this diversity, equity, and inclusion mean? What does it entail? We need to be using real life examples. We need to be training people on what to do and what not to do in a workplace, especially. What are some of the things that you're doing that could be seen as a microaggression, that could be seen in a way that isn't pleasant for a woman of color to receive. You speak really well, for example, is one of them. Where did you grow up is another one, because you speak well, so where did you grow up? Those are stereotypes, so, that you wouldn't ask a person that isn't of color. So I think it's very important for us to break that down and for everyone to do the work. I keep saying this, and I say it on LinkedIn all the time. We have to do the work, guys. We have to bring in those consultants and get them to really help us to get our organizations aligned with where we need to be today in 2023. When we talk about women empowerment, how are women being treated? How are they being respected? And, we need to really be aware and cognizant of the value that women are bringing to tables that they find themselves in.
Okay, so what advice do you have for women who work in a male-dominant field and who might feel like they're not respected and treated fairly?
There's only a certain part of the dynamic that you can control, and I've learned this throughout my career. So for me, it's about being able to show up as my authentic self, to be able to own my voice if I'm sitting at a table, to be able to add value to that conversation. I can't control the way that it's received.
Okay.
I can give my bit and I can give off my best. And the other thing is to become excellent at your craft, which is another thing that I'm a huge, I stand testament to. I've honed in on my craft in terms of risk audit and strategy for the last 10 years.
Okay.
It's been an incredible journey, and become excellent. Make sure that you're becoming a credible source. So when you speak up about a particular topic that is work related, people stop and listen to you because you've become so excellent at what you do that your excellence cannot be ignored. That's what Oprah always says. She says, get excellence so that no one can ignore you in terms of how good you are at what you do. And I think that is the basis of, when you're finding yourself in a situation that's difficult, become excellent, own your power, learn about boundaries, set boundaries, healthy boundaries for yourself. And the other really important lesson that I learned is that you don't have to attend every debate that you're invited to, or every angry email that you receive. It's not about that. It's about picking your battles and, becoming excellent. Because when you've got that skill of becoming excellent, if you're not appreciated in a particular environment, there will be other environments out there that will appreciate and value and pay you for your excellent work efforts.
Wow.
I love it. I think this is actually a very relevant question. How can one expand women's links to one another?
I would say register on our platform to start, right? It's www.bossbabesofsouthafrica.co.za. And we have lives every Monday. So we go live with a really inspirational woman in South Africa. This week, we're going live with the fantastic owner of a Black woman in the workplace. So it's going to be a very, very interesting conversation. Be a part of that, comment, engage. I think Bossbabes of South Africa has just linked so many incredible women. They found each other on the platform. They've gone off, they've made connections, they've now become besties outside of the platform, without me having anything to do with it other than create this space and this channel for women to collaborate. So I think that's definitely one way to do it. And then the other thing is to, if you're invited to events and you're feeling lazy and you don't want to go, just go. There's a reason that you've been invited. There's a reason that, that invite landed in your hand. Make the most of every opportunity that you're given, because sometimes we don't know. It could be divine timing. It could be your next job, could be lying in the hands of someone there. I take up the opportunity, even if I'm feeling like dead tired. I make it like a contract to myself to say I'm going to go to every event, even if I'm tired. And when I come home, I'm going to rest and take care of myself. But if I don't attend that particular opportunity where I could network with other like-minded women, I'm missing out, and the opportunity is not going to come back. So make the most of your time and prioritize those, events that you can go to, those networking sessions, even if it means you've got to pay to buy a ticket, which I often do. It's really important to make sure that you're You're finding your tribe. You're finding those like-minded women. And you're definitely not going to find it by sitting at home and just watching TV.
100% true. Thank you so much, Kovini, for being an inspiration and for living out what you preach and what your purpose is all about. Thank you for being here. Where can people find you again?
You can start with LinkedIn and Instagram. Those are our two biggest platforms. If you'd like to get in touch for me to speak at any of your future events, you can send us a direct message, and you can register on our website, www.bossbabesofsouthafrica.co.za, and be a part of our community.
Great, thank you. So guys, we'll link all Kovini's contact details down below in the description section. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, leave your thoughts down below, and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.